hold your voice down or turn your video off. But it's going to be utilized, recorded to be utilized on the website. And so we just want to make sure that everyone understands that. I do have some very sad news to pass along. Past president of the South Dakota Association of Fairs, Dale Nauman, from the Potter County Fair, was found deceased at his ranch 2 days ago, I believe. And that was very, very hard to hear. Dale had been the president for quite some time, and obviously had done the auctioneering for the South Dakota Association at their conventions. So he's going to be greatly missed. I know he did a lot of work behind the scenes in discussing when this merger was happening and stuff. So I'd like to just have a brief moment of silence for Dale and recognize his passing this week. Thank you. Again, it's always, especially in the last year that we've had, it always goes to show us how short life is, and how all of us, it's amazing how we've made such good friends just through the fair world. So I'm always enjoy seeing all of you, and tonight's another reminder of that. I want to give a thank you to Etix. Etix, they are our sponsor for tonight's roundtable. And we've got Dennis Scanlon on. And Dennis, if you would please give us a minute or two here of an introduction for yourself. And again, a big thanks to Etix for sponsoring tonight's roundtable. Dennis?
Hi there. Good evening, everybody, from sunny, cold 3 degrees in Cincinnati. I'm here with Aaron Bear, who's also, you'll see him on the call. He leads our digital marketing team. I thought it was, this is our first time into this group, and one of the members had actually invited us to join, and we talked with Tara, and we do, we do about 180 fairs, I think it is. I forget the exact number, but between regional and state fairs, and this provides us with a great opportunity to continue to look, listen, and learn and interact with you, both from an educational standpoint, share best practices. I do want to stand up and just let you know that we have a little bit of a story that I think is relevant for tonight. And I don't know how familiar you all are with the Minnesota Food Parade. Did any of you raise your hands if you all are familiar with it? Just so I can see you. If you, okay, so there, you heard there. Okay, great. So anyway, I just wanted to let you know that when we get into the educational session, 2 things. One, we've worked with Candi and Peggy for years at the South Dakota State Fair, and we also did some pretty interesting stuff. And I promise, not from a standpoint of a commercial, but from the standpoint of best practices and kind of how we work with the fair and some things we experienced and felt we can get into that. So anyway, it is a very big deal, and it's great to see you all here. It's an honor for us to have been invited to your time, and I look forward to kind of sharing ideas and becoming a part of your group. Thanks, Corey.
Thank you, Dennis. We really look forward to having you as a part of our association, and thanks for sponsoring tonight's event. Everybody mark your calendars. We've got another roundtable will be coming up Thursday, March 18th. We're still working out the topic for that, but we are going to do another roundtable for the association, and that'll be Thursday, March 18th. We have again announced the 2021 convention. We are out in 2021, so it's kind of hopefully fun to look forward to that, and that'll be November 18th through the 20th at the Best Western Ramkota in Aberdeen. So a familiar site on a familiar date, and I think all of us are, as much as we enjoy seeing each other on this virtual platforms, I think we'd all prefer to see each other in person. So again, November 18th through the 20th. will be at the Best Western Ramcota in Aberdeen. At this time, we are going to have another showcase this evening, and that is going to be ZZ3, which is going to be presented by Winterset Concert Events. They've appeared on stage with Huey Lewis, Alice Cooper, Hank Williams Jr., Great White, and many others. With their faithful recreations of ZZ classics from every era, convincing costumes, and spot-on stage show, they are widely recognized as the most authentic ZZ Top tribute in America. ZZ3 is represented by Randy Merrill of Winterset Concert Events, LLC, which you can find them at wintersetconcertevents.com. And at this time, Tara, you can take away their showcase.
Got me on the press. Get yourself some cheap sunglasses. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. And a dinner and a bunch of wine. Oh, baby, don't you wanna come with me? Have mercy. Well, I hear it's fine. You got the time. You better tell to get yourself in. Yeah, I hear it's time. Most of the night. Now, I might be mistaken. Oh, yeah.
All right. Thanks again to Winterset Concert Events, LLC, for presenting the ZZ3. And again, they're represented by Randy Merrill of Winterset Concert Events, wintersetconcertevents.com. Let's roll right into our roundtable, which again is utilizing technology to accommodate your fairgoers. We've got 4 amazing moderators tonight, and they're going to be a couple of our board members, Candi Briley from the South Dakota State Fair, Kara Fladstol from the Weston County Fair in Wyoming, Dennis Scanlon from Etix, who you were all fortunate enough to hear from because they're sponsoring the event tonight. And then Jodi Buresh from Saffire, another West Fargo, North Dakota lady. So we're going to give each of you moderators 1 to 5 minutes to give a brief overview of what you've done, what you've seen, or what you're using in the industry for one or more of the topics below. We're going to start with Candi, then Kara, then Dennis, then Jodi. Again, it's going to be using technology for better flow at your fairgrounds and crowd control, tips for social distancing, cashless systems, and digital exhibits using QR codes. So from that point, I guess, welcome all of you to the Heartland Association of Fairs, Festivals, and Events, another educational roundtable. And with that, Candi, take it away.
Thanks, Corey. I guess I'm just happy to be able to share some of the things that we have implemented at the state fairgrounds in South Dakota. And much of the things that I'm going to mention tonight are kind of things that we experienced at the 2020 state fair, mainly in response to COVID. So, you know, I know that we'll probably have to deal with some COVID things in this upcoming fair cycle in 2021. So some of these things might be able to be put to good use then, but I also think that some of them are just some common things that people might be able to utilize in their planning going forward, whether it, and some things might be for fairs, and other things also might be able to be applied to associates. So maybe you can take little bits here and there, but so I'm the assistant manager at the South Dakota State Fair. And so we held the fair in 2020, and holding the fair meant that we had to get creative, think outside the box, and step outside of our comfort zone. So we annually produce a multi-page event guide that contains our schedule, special event information, and sponsor recognition. And we have distributed that pre-fair to banks, gas stations, grocery stores, and other places of that nature. And at the fair, we handed out of the gates. So one of the first things in our marketing strategy for the 2020 fair that we needed to rethink was that piece, because we felt that people weren't going to be quick to be grabbing things at the gas stations and those types of places. So we had to get creative on how to deliver that information. So it was definitely outside of our comfort zone, as it was a stray away from what our typical plan is. So we did end up working with a local newspaper to do something for a hard piece, but we also ended up focusing on delivering it digitally and having the schedule more accessible online. Last spring, actually, we revamped our website. So we made it a point to make the schedule tab a prominent tab when you went to the website. You wouldn't see it now because it only comes up when we have our schedule done, but we made a point to focus more on that schedule tab. And granted, we have offered the schedule digitally before, but since COVID, we had to put more of an emphasis on giving that schedule digitally. And we also have an app that we've pushed more this past year, and we made sure it had all the bells and whistles that it should have. We put up a listing of vendors, food vendors, the schedule and map. So we made sure to focus on that more as well. We also focused on the public's interest in using cards more versus cash, and being as contactless as possible. In doing so, we had to make sure technology was up to par, not only at our gatehouses for taking in gate admission, but also in our vending buildings and outdoor vending areas. It seems to be an ongoing thing for us to continue to improve upon, but in some of these places, we don't have a permanent service, so we had to get creative. So we've used MiFis, we've worked with our internet provider and our ticketing provider to make sure that we were squared away for some of those needs. And so if we're going to utilize some of this stuff, I would definitely emphasize making sure that your technology and your internet systems are up to par, so you're prepared to handle that extra use on your internet infrastructure. Because if you aren't prepared for it, it can give you a couple headaches. So we're actually in the process of working through some of our upgrades on the fairgrounds based on some of the challenges that we've had in the past. So also in our efforts to be as contactless as possible, we've put more of an emphasis on buying gate admission tickets and our bull riding tickets in advance last year to avoid the crowd. We did this through our advertising and our social media strategy. One of the ways we promoted buying in advance or keeping contactless was through use of QR codes. We put signs that had them along the fence leading up to our gatehouses, so people would buy gate admission on their way to the gatehouses as they're walking up, so they didn't have to stand in line. Last year we had 2 nights of a paid grandstand that were general admission shows that we tried the same tactic with. We placed posters with QR codes around the grounds in strategic areas in hopes of people buying tickets in advance, again, all to avoid standing in line. We did try using a company that helped fairgoers to be contactless with their vendor interactions. Each vendor was given a number that fairgoers could text to get more information from a vendor. So it was displayed at their booth, so as fairgoers would walk by, they could text for more information. This took a lot of time and effort, but unfortunately, this was something that was barely used. I don't think that fairgoers were too concerned about remaining contactless with vendors. I think they monitored crowd levels more and went to speak with vendors when they felt more comfortable. outside of marketing, I just wanted to mention a few other ways we used technology for some other areas of our planning. When I reach out to sponsor now, if I would typically ask for a phone call or a face-to-face meeting, now I'm also throwing in an option of a virtual call, so you don't have to either travel to see them face-to-face, or I think virtual calls are better than a phone call. You still get some of that in-person connection there. So, and then prior to the 2020 fair, we had to do a lot of educating to our employees on COVID and what safety protocols we were following. We gave employees the options to attend in person or attend virtually. With our ticketing system at the gates, there's always refreshers needing and training to be done, and it's hard to get everyone on the same schedule. So I really look forward to doing trainings virtually if it works better for the employees. So it's just another way to connect easier and be more efficient with our time. So this year, as we continue to plan this year's fair, what's going to stay for us and what's going to go, I'd say a majority of our emphasis on digital projects will stay, and we'll continue to produce our event guide this year, but continue to encourage people to access it via our website and our app and focus more on that digital delivery. The QR codes, we're going to keep those. It's an easy, cost-effective thing to do and to try, and to also drive sales. And we can also do better with our app. So with that, those are some of the things that we've done. I've got a lengthier list here, but I'll save those for later.
Can you guys hear me? Okay, so I don't believe Kara is on the call. So we will have Dennis Scanlon from Etix kind of give us an overview of what they've seen in the industry and what they're doing. And then next, Jodi. And then after that, then we'll kind of open it up for the roundtable question and answers for each of the individuals.
Excellent. I'm going to go ahead, everybody, and share my screen for just a moment. Hopefully, can you all see that? I think so. Okay, good. Thank you for that, Tara. And I want to give a real quick preface by saying that we have the privilege of working with Candi at the South Dakota State Fair. And in 2020, you could have counted the number of fairs in the United States that actually occurred on one hand. And they were one of them, and I give them huge props. I think we all do for what they did. And we had a team of people on the ground there to kind of help them out. And it was pretty astounding how well they pulled that off. So for whatever there, I think it's important to say that helped us immensely learn kind of what the real interactions were going on there. So what I want to share with you just kind of briefly is talk about some of the things. One of the case studies we did was with the Minnesota State Fair Food Parade. As you all probably know, this is one of the largest fairs in the US. And in May of 2020, they had to announce that they weren't going to be able to do their normal fair. So what they did was replace it with what they called the Minnesota State Fair Food Parade. And operating at just a very small fraction of their normal attendance, they allowed 19,000 cars to come through the fairgrounds. I think I have a map here. This was a way that they used their property to allow folks to come and, without getting out of their cars, kind of navigate and enjoy some of the best features of the fair, like the food, some of the entertainment, etc., all the way through. Just an interesting couple of tidbits of using technology and what we knew. Number one, all tickets were sold online in advance. Number two, everything was done via mobile, so there was no exchanging of tickets back and forth. Three, everything was done at one ticket per carload. So if you think about an average of 3 people, coming with a group, in this case, it was 1-to-1. So you wouldn't divide 19,000 by 3 to say how many transactions. It was actually 19,000. Now, in a positive way, and this is something that Jodi can probably speak to as well, A couple of the wins for the fair, in addition to just the obvious of having people come, was that because we leveraged the technology, they got a lot more data, because instead of just somebody coming up and paying cash and being done, in this way, you're able to really get to know your guest. Now, I will tell you that, you know, we'd like to think that we're so smart, we all would, and we figured it out. However, again, as Jodi will probably acknowledge, we learned along the way that this became a great tool for contact tracing. You know, that I mean, again, you think about, oh, by the way, when you're going through that, right? That was one of the things that came up early in the planning, but it wasn't something that was initially important. Something else that was there that was a big deal that's starting now to become more common within the fairs is timed entry. So all of a sudden what they wanted to do was stage the time with which people could come into the grounds. I think that will evolve to probably soften a lot at the fairs over the next year or so, but it wouldn't surprise me at all in 2021 if our fairs here are going to happen, that they may say you can enter at this gate at this time, or you can, you know, you can come at 10 or noon or et cetera, because ingress and egress onto the property and having what they call an alpha and a beta number. An alpha number is how many total people came to the fair today. A beta number is how many people are physically present on the grounds. So having the technology to be able to talk and monitor the ingress and the egress was something that we leveraged here and can leverage, you know, we can talk about. Again, we all of our ticket companies are using QR codes for exactly the reason Candi said. There are low or no cost entry to get in. You get a tremendous amount more data. The technology with something as simple as your phone is such now that you can point your phone, and thanks to Apple, you can point your camera right at there and it'll open up to the page that you're buying. So it makes it easy and a good experience for your guests. I just wanted you to see a real couple of pictures. This was how they dealt with the guest as they pulled up to the grounds. This was a picture of how they staged the cars coming through and just kind of how the experience was able to happen. Now, as you might imagine, this had never been done before. They really were cutting their teeth as they went along. And the whole question was, how would the guests, you know, kind of react to that? And here's the answer. This is a real picture that was taken of some of the folks there who went through the actual drive-through. And the experience was about an hour and a half to go through the whole fairgrounds and experiences. But what was most important was that they didn't lose their touch with their guests, even though it was different. And the guests, as you notice, were taking something tangible with them when they went away. Just the last thing I'll say about it was, going into this, they had no idea whether they were going to have 500 people take advantage of it or 19,000. They sold it out in an hour and a half with one ticket at a time, if you think about it that way. They decided to do it again. It was so successful. They did it in October. And again, they'll share this public information. They did more than 20,000 tickets the second time. So, so again, the technology that was valid there and that's going to continue to be valid are the scanning applications, the cashless applications, both through QR codes and RFIDs, leveraging a lot of the technology and resources as far as data that's around the experience. But again, also not leveraging it to the point that you lose your relationship with your guests. So I hope that wasn't too verbose. So Jodi, I'll pass it over to you and stop sharing my screen here if I can fit there. Okay, so I'll pass it over to Jodi.
All right, Jodi, let's see here. Okay, Jodi, so you're muted.
You guys probably want me to be muted. Okay, so you can see my screen. Okay, so as you know, I'm with Saffire, and we have Saffire ticketing and Blast Pass. So we've kind of got a variety of different things. We're getting bombarded in the last 2 months with people asking about the technology and all the changes. And I think a lot of that is just because of the executive orders on the different states have different things that are going on with them. So I'm going to kind of show you just a few of the photos that we have and some of the options that we're presenting to people, and some of them that have been used so far. One of them is our contactless box office. Basically, it's just your complete box office, but there's not even a person that has to handle it. We're using iPads with the credit card swiper, and it's punching out their ticket. You might have 8 windows and 2 of them have people in it, and 5 do not or whatnot. That didn't add up, but you know what I'm talking about. What they would do is then basically have somebody, a volunteer, watching it. We're finding more and more people don't want to deal with the people and have that less of a contact with them, and it's almost like a little impromptu style kiosk. We also have the kiosk type systems as well. We don't have that many of those in stock, and right now we're in the process of getting them built because we've had so many fairs that want these outside of their ticket window areas so that people can buy these tickets without touching other people. And then what we're recommending is you have somebody there to sanitize it, but they just don't want to have that money cash exchanged and having people touching the cash anymore. And then another technology that has kind of taken off quite a bit in the last couple of years, and I'm sure Dennis and those guys do the same thing. It's more of the parking lot hip printers. Basically, it's more of a receipt that comes out while they're parking the cars. They're selling the gate admission at the same time. If they're paying $2 to park, punch it in, boom, they've got a QR code to go right through the gates, and they can just use their credit cards. Again, trying to get rid of that cash in hand. And not only for just this whole COVID season, a lot of these things are in place now because we might not have the most honest people working our gates. The least amount of cash that they're dealing with, and I shouldn't say it that way. They might be very honest, but it's very easy to drop a 20 in the parking lot or slip it here and there. So, with using the least amount of cash, it's easier on your reconciliations. This shows you just how easy it is to scan. Like we said, Dennis had mentioned too, using those iPhones, all it does is just uses the iPhone with an app, and you can just scan it right on there, take a picture of it real quick, and it automatically goes into the system. It's not like one of these tethered, old-fashioned type of wands that you used to see 5 years ago. Technology has changed tremendously. And now there's even the contactless ticket scanning. So they can put it right on up to a reverse facing iPad, and you don't even have to have somebody scanning it with their phones. So there's so many different options that are out there. Again, when you guys were talking about the contact tracing, we call it capacity tracking. How many people are in, how many people are out, how many people are at that location. What if you have somebody from the county coming in saying, I need to know what your capacity is. You're only supposed to be at 50%. This way you can actually show them legitimately how many people are actually on the grounds at that time that you're scanning in. And then we've got the RFID Blast Pass that, actually I saw John Hanchin, they were kind of our rolled out at Wharton County to do this for all the carnival rides. It's the RFID wristband. Basically, you're putting your credits on a card or a wristband, going through that kiosk, put your money in there, and you get a card or a wristband back that has it on, and then you just redeem it. We are seeing quite a few more carnival areas and food vendors. These work great for food vendors if you don't want to have that cashless there. Beer garden tents, our festivals, those are really using these quite a bit now, just so that there's not that cash handling on there. So those are just some of the major things that we're seeing trending right now. That first picture I showed you of the contactless, we rolled that out at South Florida Fair a few weeks ago, and we were actually very surprised at how receptive it was for the guests to be using that. They're the ones that wanted to go through that line. We would see people standing tweaking their tickets online so they could go through the fast pass lane and not have to deal with a person to purchase them. They're willing to pay the extra money so they could just go through a sideline that says VIP ordered in advance, whatever it is, just to get scanned so that they don't have to go up to a ticket window. So I think in that essence, COVID has helped the ticketing industry a little bit because it's pushing people a little bit faster to look at this technology than it was even 2 years ago. And I think that's about all I have. Here's just another one of how it works for that. But otherwise, that's, you know, a little bit of what we've been doing in the last few months. But it's a lot of phone calls. A lot of people are asking those same questions with, you know, even when you're talking about, you know, the QR codes at the entrances and those types of things, like Brandy said, or Candi said, it's the same thing. We're seeing a lot of it. Tara, did you grab the screen from me?
Yeah. Is
Okay,
that
good. Yep, no, that's fine. I was like, I don't have to click anything, do I?
Yeah, sounded like you're done.
I'm like,
So now we're just gonna open it up to anybody that has questions, some ideas of what you may be thinking for your fairgrounds or events, and ask away. So now's your chance.
Tara, just to kind of start the conversation, is it okay if I share just some things for thought and a few best practices that everybody might want to think about? Is that okay? Am I okay? I don't want to overtake my time, but regardless of whatever platform you're using, just a couple of things to think about. On your purchase process, in terms of the terms and conditions that you have your guest check the box. One of the things that we've been asked about across the live entertainment industry that we've really been advocating, and I'm sure Jodi and their crew have done the same, is that you include what the local, you know, information is relative to, you have to wear a mask, you have to, you know, and you have to agree that if you're going to come on to the fairgrounds, that you're going to abide by these rules, right? Jodi, is that something you're adding in your checkout process?
yeah, absolutely. It's like a little disclaimer on there
Yeah,
that you have to
yeah.
check that box that you're agreeing to this.
Right.
Another thing I wanted to bring up too is a cancellation.
Right.
A lot of our clients are putting in there's a cancellation fee. They may not be refunding 100% of that ticket back. If it's a GA, they might be, but if it's a reserve ticket, they might not be refunding it all the way back if it's bought less than 60 days. I've seen that quite a bit because they might have to pay their promoter a fee and they might have to pay their merchant account a fee anyways. So they might be keeping some of that.
Yeah, and that was the other thing. Thank you, Jodi, that I was going to share with everybody was it is a reality, and hopefully it becomes less and less that somebody may purchase a ticket to attend your fair and something happens, right? They get COVID, they can't come, whatever the case is. Again, I will tell you just as a general statement, and I'm generally speaking, I can tell you that the client community out there, for the most part, has been very benevolent with the guests to the extent that they can. And they've offered things such as, well, you can donate your ticket and get a receipt. We'll give you a tax deductible receipt that you made a donation. Number two, you can hold on to your ticket and come either another day or come next year if you can't use it. Number three, if you want to get your money back, we will refund your money. And again, it's up to the fair. I can tell you my own personal experiences. I haven't seen anybody withhold anything, but again, that's entirely up to the fair. But the most important thing I wanted to share with you all, because one of the biggest things you're going to face is the whole question of liability, right? You know, if you have your fair, somebody gets sick, you don't know whether they got sick at the fair or not, but certainly their attorney is going to say, yeah, you did, you caused it. And unfortunately, almost any insurance company is going to say COVID is excluded from liability. Well, one of the things in that terms and conditions is that you can make it abundantly clear, you know, you agreed to abide by the rules and you are saying that you're entering on your own risk, you know, and as such, you will be in the company of other people. And we, you know, I know and you know that you can make all the statements in the world and that won't stop somebody from coming after you. But what I have found for the few who've kind of gotten some sense of pressure, not just in the fair industry, but globally that's dealt with it, is it comes down to intent. And as long as you've done all of the things you can do and you've abided by the health department, it helps out a lot. So anyway, for whatever that's worth, I just wanted to share that with everybody.
Had a few other ideas to offer. Some revolve around QR codes and other, just a few other random things. But as far as QR codes, the way that we've also used them in the past is that last year we developed a scavenger hunt that was based off of QR codes. So people would just go up to the sign or whatever and scan the code. And so that's how we conducted a scavenger hunt. So that's an easy way. And I think it's also kind of maybe more enticing to the younger generation to be able to interact like that. And then, so we used to offer a vendor coupon sheet, which didn't get a lot of traction in the vendor world, but we have a new vendor director this year and she was maybe thinking about doing something. So we thought about producing a PDF of vendor coupons, but then having a poster with a QR code done so we could splash that all around the fairgrounds, and then people can simply scan that QR code to access those vendor coupons. So, you know, good for the COVID world because you're not touching papers and handing out things. And it's also more cost efficient because you don't have to print those all off. People can use it at their discretion. With our app, we might try to use push notifications more to either run promotions or push people around the fairgrounds to different things. We're hiring an intern, so I've conducted numerous intern interviews over the last couple weeks. And the question I asked them was how to attract the younger generation to our fairs and what we can do. And I don't know if it was because we were talking social media and whatnot, but everyone said TikTok. So it seems like it's the thing if we want to attract younger kids to the fair and such, to get a TikTok page. So that'll be our goal at the South Dakota State Fair, is getting a TikTok page. And then one last thing, as I mentioned, that we were working on updating our internet infrastructure and such on our fairgrounds. It can be quite daunting to think about the cost that comes along with those types of things. You know, whether it's you're working with a company that does some of that, but I mean, whether it's fiber or any other technology, it can be very costly. So we've been pricing out fiber in the ground versus more like of Airlink technologies that make more sense for, you know, just 5 days or 10 days out of the year versus 365 days out of the year. So just some different things to think about if you're going to have to, you know, invest in some internet infrastructure to keep some of these things going. MiFi's, you know, are a great way to get some quick internet signal, although you're at the mercy of cell phone carriers. If they happen to go down or something happens to them, then you're also in a little bit of trouble. But, you know, this year we have some internet service that our provider, that Midco, our internet provider, provides for free, but it's not locked down or password protected, you know. So vendors didn't want to hop on that for security purposes. So we just ran back to the office, grabbed a MiFi, and got that vending building set up. So it was a good solution to a challenge we had. So.
I'll share one other thing just because I happened to think of this that I thought you all might like to see as well. And this was a case where for the concert, like if you have a grandstand or if you have anything like that, that you can allow your guests to, again, leverage the different ways that either they can do it online ahead of time with the QR code. Again, we have an app as well that you could use on site to upsell or whatever. But the point is that especially if you have issues relative to serving food back and forth over a counter or things like that, people can pre-order this and have food and beverages brought to their seats or pre-packaged. We've done both, and in this case, what you actually did, it was kind of like Jodi will understand this. It's like will call for food, right? And you actually put the header ticket right on the side of that and then scanned it as the person came up and picked it up. So again, it's kind of a hybrid approach for that. But in using this kind of a scenario, you're able to both reduce spoilage and loss, help your concessionaire. Again, there's that data play, because now instead of just having a line at the beer stand, now you're actually getting to know what's happening. And next, you can even provide service if you want, where that can be brought to their section row and seat, or they can pick it up and you can, again, it provides additional revenue back and forth. So just in terms of how technology can actually help you on the grounds or what's happening, this is kind of a thing that we may have thought is non-traditional this year, but I think it's going to become more common. Jodi, I'm not trying to hog all your time. Do you want to I'm sure you've seen this too. Do you want to elaborate on it?
Yeah, actually, I was just meeting with one of our clients in regards to this, but they were more concerned of the cost because they're not a huge event. They only have a couple thousand people and maybe a 4,000 seated grandstand. And so they were thinking, well, do we want to go through this extra effort? And what they were also thinking as an alternative, instead of using technology for it, is to have more of your stanchions set up in zigzagging out front and, different pods of areas to keep people a little bit separated and then to get to the food to them. But, they're brainstorming a lot of different things on how to get that in there. Yeah.
The thing that's important to know is you have options, and we all can provide you with, here's a menu of different ways you can do it. There's an amphitheater I work with in Idaho where what he's doing is actually using the cashless he's going to have a pizza stand that it's $5 or $10 for a pizza and you get what you get. Mm-hmm. He's going to have a beer stand where you pre-buy and you go and every beer is $5. And like Jodi showed with the wristband, you do that and it's done. So he's eliminating all of the cashless this year using those kind of things that make it work. So what I would just say as a best practice is share with us what your challenges are, what your goals are, and we all can come back to you with different ideas.
And I'm seeing a lot of the food vendors or the fairs or event venues saying to the food vendors and concessionaires, okay, so all of the soda is going to be this cost. And they're not going to undercut each other. It's all going to be about the same, and it's all going to be even dollar amounts that they don't have to deal with a lot of that cash. Now, I'm curious about John Hanshin with Thomas Carnival on how you guys are going to be changing up some things and how that's looking for on your side of it and what you're hearing from different fairs. And now he's like, how do I unmute?
I actually left the system to send an email. So I know how to unmute. That's about the limit of it, though.
That's good.
No. Anyway, honestly, we're struggling to get over the 250 person limit that a lot of states have for fairs. And so I can tell you one thing we did last year that I liked and would fit into your system. It wasn't big enough to have special systems, but we sold tickets that were deposited straight into a receptacle, so we wouldn't have to handle and we wouldn't have to come in contact with the customer. So an alternative to that is your all system, what you're all talking about there, and it was met with good results. People and they're kind of afraid. They're afraid. It's like people got to go home and sit down and read a National Geographic magazine because they're afraid to come out. and whatever we can do to make them comfortable. I think that we're better in an outside environment than we are in a mega store. So I think we're safer. We went to 10 places and nothing was attributed to us. So I think we did a lot of the right things with the hand washing stations and the mask usage by all of our employees. The mask usage by customers ranged from 60% in one town to about almost nothing in one town, and it was regional. Mask compliance was regional, it seemed, and it was hard to explain why. Some of it was political or Bill of Rights or whatever the reason was. So there's a learning curve with your systems. I didn't used to. I was surprised when I was able to charge gas years ago outside at the gas pump. All of this stuff can be learned, and our customers will like it in the end. So I think it's good what you're pushing, and for carnivals, sometimes we deal with fairs that are going to have their system. Maybe they've selected Saffire, and so we've got to be careful how on the allegiances that we go to directly, because one fair to the next could have a different association. So so we've got to learn a lot so we can handle the different systems. So I've been too verbose maybe myself here. So that's some of the things that I think about.
Well, and I'll probably be speaking for Etix as well as Saffire, but for, I think, all of our technology companies, it doesn't matter if you guys are planning on wanting to switch to something electronic or not, give us a call. We've probably heard how to do it without using technology, other ideas, because we've talked to so many different varieties of fairs and events. They don't all use the same type of system, but we've probably heard through all these types of meetings of some new way to handle it that you guys might be having a problem with. So don't ever be afraid to ask those questions. It doesn't have to be technology based.
And the accounting becomes an issue. When people and accountants and the bookkeepers and the counties get used to a certain way of accounting for the monies, then virtual reports, then they're not comfortable with them to start with. So it takes maybe it takes a lot of education early, before the event starts, and a little practice, maybe a dry run to get comfortable with the reporting, the timing of the reporting, and what the reports look like. And to the extent that you can make the reports look like what they were used to, if somebody would take a report and say, here's what they've been getting all these years now, what's it equivalent to in our new system, that would help to implement it.
Mm-hmm. And I want to revert back to what Candi said too, with doing virtual training. I think that's going to be much better in the future here, because people are so much more used to being on these Zoom meetings that they're not so afraid of using that. And it will get more and more of those people or the volunteers or the board members into these meetings to teach them a little bit more, so they're not so afraid of a regular phone versus their flip phone that they've been using.
Do any of the fairs that are on have any questions or concerns for their upcoming fair outside of, capacity restrictions and those kind of things, but the way you'd handle different things or some challenges that you think might be coming your way?
Well, I think some of these simple things, just to keep separation, are going to help. So just the idea of having separate entrance and exits that are in the same area, but separate them so you can get that flow going, just it's going to help us. So you mix that with some kind of contactless ticketing, and you can probably prevent a lot of your issues, because I think a lot of them are
I think his sound went off.
We have a event coming up in June that's a car, motorcycle, and semi show, but then we also have a barbecue contest along with it that offers a people's choice side of it. And this really doesn't have much to do with technology, but more so with last year we had to cancel it, and we're kind of throwing ourselves back into it because we're able to have the events. But there's kind of an unsettling feeling about how do you safely conduct a people's choice tasting and those types of things, with your competitors and the public, and that's a source of income for our event. So it'll be interesting to see how we handle that, and then also what the public's confidence level is in an event like that. So we'll see. It's at the beginning of June.
I'm gonna put on my Norman County Fair Board hat right now. So Don, wake up. My concern with our smaller fair is the grandstand has an itty bitty door to get into. It's not very big to go in and out of, and we're not the only one that has that. There's so many of our smaller fairgrounds in the Midwest here that have these little tiny doors to go into the grandstand. They're pushing 2,000-3,000 people in there, and that's the exit. And I think it needs to be addressed of how they're going to be going in and out of these places in such a confined spot when you have that many people. And we all know that they show up with the fry bread tacos in their hands 1 minute before the demo derby starts. So it's like there's going to be a mad rush. And I think we need to address that before it gets too bad.
Another thing that I can tell you that, and based on what Jodi has said, again, a good practice to use is having like what you call a know before you go type communication with your guests. That, for example, you can send out, we have a tool where you can broadcast out to the guests, like if they're coming on a Saturday, send it to them on a Friday and say, please be aware that, this is kind of here's a layout of kind of the general flow of the fair. And this is what your experience will be like coming here. And if you need to get a mask, if you need to, all of the things, we have found that really lowers the volume, regardless of whether you're going to a fair, a museum, whatever it might be, just to communicate before you come on property. Because as I think somebody had mentioned before, one of the biggest things that people are dealing with is they don't know what to expect, and they're nervous about when they come on the fairgrounds what it's going to be like. And as much as we can collectively communicate to them and say, we're going to make sure you're safe, we're going to have special entrances, we're going to stagger. If you have a ticket to come in, we're going to stage you before you come through that thin doorway, and we're going to enter people in, smaller groups to protect the cleanliness to the extent we can, stuff like that. Those all help. And again, what I will tell you I'm finding is that all consumers seem to be very tolerant of the procedures and technologies, as long as you can show to them that you're doing it in their best interest, right? If you're saying, hey, listen, to protect you and your family, we're going to do the following things: wear a mask, wash your, blah, 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 whatever it is. They've been very accepting of the rules, regs, and things like that.
Do we have any guests on the call tonight that are not a part of the Heartland Association? Nobody? Let's see, there might be a question. What is the merchant costs that go with the cashless system? Is that too broad of a question?
Well, I'll raise my hand just to say, generally speaking, the credit card cost, generally, what I've seen in the industry can be 2 to 4%. Jodi, would you think that's, I mean, maybe that's a little too broad, but credit
Yeah, I
card
would
fee-
say, I think first data was down to like 1.8%, but I usually quote 3%.
Yeah,
It
about
just
3%.
depends on, yeah, it usually depends on the credit card merchant that you're actually using.
Yeah, and then in terms of the other cost, relative to what can come is you're starting to see a couple of different models come out. One is cashless and the RFID type technology. There are some folks who are migrating towards a percent of the gross. So instead of paying so much per unit, like $1 or $1.50, whatever it is per band or whatever it might be, they're saying here's a percent of the gross, much like that, because some of, depending on whether it's a ride, game, food and beverage, they're more comfortable in that kind of a universe. So some models are going towards a percent of the gross, and then some of them are going towards a per unit cost, like, and again, whatever, you know, so much per unit that comes through. Jodi, is that fairly consistent?
Yeah, that's exactly how we are too. It just depends. If you have a branded wristband, it's going to cost you more. If you want to use our brand on it, it's going to be less. And then the activation just depends on your volume as well. You know, if you're a really, really big event, we can get that activation fee down quite a bit. What we are seeing too is what's unique is that, say you put 10 credits onto a card and you have 2 left when you're walking out of the fair and you don't want to, you know, cash it in or whatever. We're seeing that there's like drop boxes when you walk out. Might be a big sign says donate your unused credits to the 4-H Foundation, things like that. And that is helping offset those costs as well. Plus it's giving, I mean, people have no problem dropping a $2 card into a bucket instead of spending the rest of it, because the hot dogs cost them $6. So they'd have to go get more credits. So they're willing to give it back. We're seeing quite a bit of that coming back to it. We have a couple of events that they have enough sponsors to take care of those activations. Now, I personally, this is off the record, I personally don't think that's a great idea, because now I have no incentive to keep that band or wristband for the next day. I'm going to throw that away, and that stuff costs money. So I'm going to throw it away and get a new one the next day. You know, or I'm not going to pass it off to my friend to use it for some more, you know, beverages the next day, things like that. So there's not that incentive. Usually the customer is paying for that activation fee. Did that help answer any of those questions?
I'm going to say yes, because nobody else. I think it did.
And we would do analysis, you know, you can't just, here's the price. I mean, you got to do a little analysis to figure out what that's going to be in equipment costs and if that's included or if it's not included and what your volumes are. And I'm sure you guys have a spreadsheet to do that on too, Dennis. It's just, you know, you just punch in some numbers. It doesn't take long, but you know, a 10,000 person event versus a 150,000 person event is going to make a big difference.
Any other questions for the group? Going once, going twice. I feel like it's an auction. Well, I put all your guys' emails in the chat. So if you guys want Dennis or Jodi's or Candy's direct email. I have that there for you. And so if you do want to reach out to them individually, you can do that after the call tonight. And if you don't have that and you can't get a hold of them, you know, let me know. Otherwise, utilize our website where we have the different associate members listed, and you'll be able to get a hold of them there. Just again, we want to thank Etix for sponsoring tonight's educational session. And a reminder that the next educational session is going to be held on Thursday, March 18th. And we do not have a topic yet, but as soon as we do, you will be getting emails regarding that.
Well, I want to thank you all for having us here and keeping me from having to go out and shovel my driveway. I was, this was a great excuse. We got a lot of ice here. So thank you. My back thanks you all very much.
And thank you so much for giving us some information to work off of, and Jodi and Candi as well.
Thank you.
Have a great night, everybody. Stay warm.
Okay. Bye, everybody. Bye. How do I leave this? There we go.